Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Larry Mandelberg, consultant, speaker, author, and change mentor. Welcome to the show, Larry.
Thank you, AJ. Well, glad to be here.
You are welcome to the show, Larry. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to discuss right now. We'll be talking about the art of business survival from Larry Mandelberg. So first, before we come to that, tell us a bit about yourself, Larry. You are so many things: consultant, speaker, author, change mentor, and you talk about why businesses do suicide, actually how they can avoid it, and that is where we come to the art of business survival. So through your background, people or the audience can know who is talking about what, and they can understand that whole message better.
Yes. I'm fifth generation in a family-owned business. So my family started in the 1850s selling hides and furs. And over the next 170, 180 years, evolved into a whole bunch of different types of businesses. The last business I was involved with was what's called the automotive aftermarket. The automotive aftermarket has to do with everything that happens to a vehicle once it's sold as new. I have owned more than a dozen businesses. I've never worked for a company that I didn't own except in university. And I am what has been called a serial entrepreneur. I make some adjustments to that. I call myself a non-recovering serial entrepreneur because I believe that entrepreneurship is a disease. It's an illness. It's an incurable, non-fatal disease that, like all incurable diseases, has to be managed. So that's why so many businesses. And when I was very, very young, my father made a comment about how in the United States we went from no automobile manufacturers to over 300 and then down to 3 in a matter of about 30 years. And while he wasn't quite accurate in his details, he had a point. I was not interested in the automobile manufacturers. I was interested in why any business would fail. So I dedicated myself to finding the answer to the question, why do businesses fail? I identified a very specific demographic because you can't study all businesses in a lifetime. There's too many. And I found out over 23 years of research, 23 years of primary research, with 100 companies and 250 executives of organizations in my demographic. I got all this information and I put it in the book. I'd like to claim brilliance. I'd like to claim wisdom, but this is just data that I accumulated. Now, there's some interpretation in there. The bottom line here, AJ, the bottom line here is how to survive success and thrive in good times and bad.
Right, absolutely. So coming to my question and to understand for the audience, Larry, isn't it natural for businesses to be born, to grow, to touch the skies, and then taper off? Isn't this natural? How would you like to see it from that part to the to the suicide part for businesses?
Right. So it's an excellent question. The answer is fairly simple. There was a study done in the 1980s that became popularized internationally in the 1990s, and it's called the theory of corporate life cycles. And what a handful of theorists did was they assumed that organizations had a life cycle curve, just like human beings do, right? As human beings, we are born, we learn to walk, we learn to speak, we go through puberty. As we get older, we lose our hair, we lose our sight, etc. So this study documented how organizations age. The way they talk about it is how they grow and die. And one of the things that was one of the structural components of my research, because part of the question was, do they have to die? And the answer is they do not. They have to evolve. And if an organization evolves, it can continue to survive indefinitely. If you look at certain organizations like Hewlett Packard was born at a time when electronics was almost non-existent. And Hewlett Packard evolved over the years into many different types of companies, and yet they're still thriving. Walt Disney Company, same thing, right? They started as one type of company, and today they're a multimedia giant. So organizations do not have to come to an end of life, but they do require acceptance and adoption of change that's relevant to the markets they're serving.
Right, Larry. So let's look. Is it because of the nature of business that businesses have to die off, or is it because of managements, or is it because of something else? Because you see, in the modern world, then you have the mergers and acquisitions also, or they come together, and one has to die. You can't carry both the brands together. Some people can. So how would you help us understand this part of the nature of businesses today?
My demographic research has 4 criteria. One of those, there are 2 criteria that are important. One is no primary sources of revenue from retail activities. Now, that's because I don't understand retail. And I don't think there's anything wrong with retail. It's just that my research did not encompass any organization who had a primary source of revenue from retail. Second criteria, autonomous, which means that the organization must have the welfare of its customers at the top of its priority, not investors. So all publicly traded companies were excluded from my research. When you talk about mergers and acquisitions, you're talking about organizations that almost always are interested in serving the needs of investors. It's a very different model. So let me just answer your question first with 2 answers. That's the first answer. You're talking about a demographic that wasn't researched. And I will tell you this. I have done a fair amount of work with Fortune 50 companies using my research. They embrace pieces of it, not all of it, because all of it doesn't apply, but pieces of it do. Now, there is a universal reality, the second half of the answer. Ever since the first caveman bartered with the other caveman, we have a conflict that exists that is never going to end. It's the desire for a lack of change. I want dependability. I want stability. What happened yesterday, that's what I want for tomorrow. I'm doing well. I want to keep doing what I'm doing, and I want to keep doing well. I don't want any change. And yet the world is in a constant state of change. And the world is getting faster at change. So you have this conflict that says, you're going to exist in a world of change and you don't want to change. I'm going to kill you if you don't. If you don't change and adapt, you will die because you can't exist in another world. So your question about the inevitability of the end of life of a business, like all good questions, and like all good consultants, there's only one answer. It depends. It depends on context. In my world, where you have privately owned organizations, regardless how big they are, you can have multi-billion-dollar privately held corporations whose best interest is that of their customer, not their stockholder, not their shareholder. There is no reason for an organization to fail or to die or to go away unless leadership wants it to. Why do they fail? Well, I could spend a lot of time on that, but the simple answer is because leadership reacts to change by making bad decisions. Sometimes they're fatal, sometimes they're painful, sometimes you don't even feel them. But that's what happens. And there's more to that. I'll stop there.
Absolutely brilliant point. I will ask a few things here. You talk about not talking about the investor, so that's almost sounds like if you are talking about utopia in today's corporate world. But let me also point out one thing. If you look at very big businesses from the old times, don't you think they have all not died out but are surviving and thriving through different vehicles that are available to them? For example, family offices, some sort of flagship companies, over the top. So most of these 2 3 layers, there they do not have any sort of ownership beyond the close knit family, and which is so watertight secure.
Mm-hmm.
And then those other vehicles go and invest in own even big companies of today.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, these family-owned businesses, which proves both your criteria, that
Right.
they are not letting investor money coming into the top-notch actual management sort of a thing, ownership, and
Mm-hmm.
only some trickle through their old investments. They are owning large firms, worldwide firms, in one way or the other, within which a lot of people would not even know that they are actually owned by such companies through numerous vehicles. So they are smart people. They have not died down. So help us
Right.
understand then who will die down and who will actually survive. So one or two businesses, they die down because of technology or something else. It's okay for them. The real problem is, or real good part for them, and perhaps, and that is why countries are talking about that breaking up. But you can't break family offices. You can't break those behemoths in a way. You can only break one part of the business, but their control over everything in terms of all the factors of production is very humongous, you can say. How do you look at this?
Right. Well, I do, AJ. I used to be on the board of the first entrepreneurship academy in the United States, and I taught the second class. The second class was building teams, and one of the problems with entrepreneurs is everybody has an idea and they all want to do their idea. So when you bring 30 entrepreneurs, this is a undergraduate collegiate level program. When you bring 30 entrepreneurs together trying to build 4 or 5 or 6 teams, they're going to follow 4 or 5 or 6 ideas instead of 30, is a real problem. There's that organization, and I quit them eventually. That organization believed that the only true knowledge that was appropriate for them to teach was how to scale large enough for an exit strategy or a buyout or a merger. I don't subscribe to that. That's why I left the board. That's why I left the organization. In today's world, and in all sincerity, I do have limited knowledge, right? I'm in the United States. I don't know what happens everywhere else in the world except by what I read, and who knows if that's true. My other information I know is factual because I talked to the people. It was one-on-one, right? But the volume of large organizations compared to the volume of my demographic, there's like less than 2% of the organizations in the world, in the United States, that are those large companies. So I'm not looking for quantity or quality. I'm looking for how many organizations can I impact? How many organizations can I help save themselves, save their employees, save their organizations? And I want to say one more thing, and that is that my research was independent of legal structure, independent of revenue, independent of market, other than no retail, and independent of number of employees. So most of the type of demographic segmentation that people do are irrelevant when it comes to survival. Isn't that fascinating?
Right, right. So, Larry, let's look at as a consultant, I'll give you one problem to solve.
Okay.
US right now is going through this whole thing, the largest wealth transfer in the world history. That boomers have to transfer trillions of dollars of businesses. It's already ongoing, and in the next say decade or so, trillions of dollars of businesses to the next generation, and the next generation is not ready to, take that responsibility for whatever reasons. Uh, a lot of businesses they say that we'll have no takers and will die down or be wiped out from that. How would you look at this as a consultant? How would you solve this problem for them, including because a lot of people in small quantities are also involved with every business?
It's a great question. Again, you're good at this. You've done this before, haven't you?
Thank you.
Okay, well, every answer has a simple answer and a factual answer. And the factual answer requires a little detail. So let me give you a little detail. Along the lines of corporate life cycle theory, organizations live in one of three stages of maturity. I call them youth, adolescence, and adulthood. Maturity is the measure of experience, not knowledge, not expertise. Experience. There's a difference. Youth is narrow and shallow experience. Adolescence is narrow and deep experience. Adulthood is broad and deep experience. Every organization that fails in youth fails because of a lack of clarity of purpose. Every organization that fails in adolescence fails because of a lack of consistency of performance. You can't make commitments and honor them. You lose the trust of your market. You lose the trust of your staff. Every organization that fails in adulthood fails because of a lack of engagement of people. When organizations get, and because these things take time, and because if you're not growing, you're dying, by the time you get to adulthood, you're usually relatively large. The larger you get, the further leadership gets from their market. And as the market shifts and the demands and desires and needs and wants of the market change, if leadership isn't connected, the client leaves the organization behind. When you have an engaged workforce, they make sure that doesn't happen. That's why organizations in adulthood fail. So let's get to your question. Generation's not ready. How do you deal with that? With that understanding, if you don't have an engaged workforce, you have to fix that problem. Theoretically, you cannot get to adulthood without having consistency of performance. It happens, but it's not sustainable. Where the problem lies with what you're talking about, these generations not being ready, it's in two places. First, the organization is not recruiting the people who are passionate about the purpose of the organization. If you bring people in, that next generation, whether it's your children or whether it's people you've never met before, the only way to make it sustainable is to recruit those people who are passionate about your purpose. One of the organizations I work with intimately is a very large charter school management company, and we have a very clear purpose. We want to change the way education works in this country so that parents have as much say over their students' curriculum as the students and the teachers. And that plays out in some interesting ways. But the point is that if you don't recruit people based on their passion, you can't expect them to pick up the business and take it with any serious effort. Why? It has to do with how we teach at this school. We don't teach facts. We don't teach details. We find out what they're interested in. Let's just use a corny saying. I want to be a fireman. Okay. Well, what we're going to teach you is why it's important for a fireman to know math. We're going to teach you why it's important for a fireman to know history. We're going to teach you why it's important for a fireman to know English. And what we're actually doing, without saying it, is we're teaching you the joy of learning, so that no matter what you're interested in, you will be able to use that passion and develop expertise. And that becomes experience. Generations not ready. Look for people who are passionate. Teach them what they need to know and why it's important to the dream, and they'll be hungry and they'll get engaged. That's how you do it. It's a long answer, but did I make sense?
You made a lot of sense. Means this is I'm very you can say very happy that there is a way out of this, and I would be very happy if people get to watch this. Those people who are looking for an answer to that, because a lot of not only good businesses will be safe, but a lot of jobs will also be saved
Exactly.
in this whole process. And and that matters a lot, because these small businesses or medium-sized businesses can be, it brings about that whole homogeneity to the whole corporate world, to that, and that is very much needed. Only in a large ocean, only big fishes cannot stay. Then the whole ocean will become very drab. It will not be so great.
There's another piece to this that I want to point out, because I think it's very important. And I agree with you 100%. One of the things that I found is that diversity is critical. If people learn how to do this, which is what my book is all about, if people learn how to do this, then
show it. I want the audience to have a look proper, but it's upside down, I guess.
Yeah, I don't. It does that. I don't know how to reverse that. Businesses don't fail; they commit suicide. How to survive?
Can you put it the other way? Maybe it looks.
It doesn't work.
Okay.
It doesn't work. It's the
okay.
technology. I ran into this yesterday. Oh, wait. Is there a way to reverse? If you know if there's a way to reverse, that'll do it. I know that. I don't know that there's a way to can't reverse the camera. Yeah, I don't know how to do it.
Okay.
But I'll put the link to the book in. I'll give you the link so you can have it.
Yes, absolutely.
I forgot where we were.
You were adding one more point.
Yes. Diversity. Without diversity, you lose the opportunity to view the world from different perspectives. When you don't have diversity, you don't understand other people, and you don't have respect for them. When you recognize the critical nature of diversity, that's when you can bring in people from different cultures, different races, different religions, different ethnicities, and you can say, none of this is right. We're all trying to achieve this purpose. Let's talk about ideas, and let's be open to everybody's ideas, and let's pursue the best ideas. So not only does it save jobs, not only does it save money, not only does it save careers, but it eliminates barriers between people who don't interact, and that eliminates racism, fear, and concern about people who you don't understand and you don't know. And that's a huge problem globally.
Absolutely. Now, you talked about the customers earlier on, and customer is still the king, I guess, though it seems to be changing. There are different people who don't consider customer as king, because customer is running helter-skelter to reach beyond the bots to the people who can solve their problems. And it's not just in one place, but across the world.
Right.
Customer has to be the focus of everything, but it is moving off. Do you think it's a big threat for the survival of businesses, big businesses especially, because small businesses still are in touch with their customers to be on the ground? How does it look? How many small businesses will you gulp down your throat, buy them out? Every day new businesses will come up.
Right. So let me respond first by answering your question, is the customer still king? And then if I don't give you the answer, enough of an answer, you can ask me another question, okay? Retail, wholesale. So I bought my first computer in 1973. So I literally have 51 years of experience. I've owned 3 technology companies. So I understand technology quite well, and I absolutely hate it. I hate it with a passion. Can't survive without it. That's okay. I accept it. I embrace it. I don't have to like it. But I will not use B2B and B2C because I don't think they're valid labels. To me, it's retail and wholesale. So in retail, the customer is always right. In wholesale, the customer is always wrong. Let me say that again. The customer is always wrong in wholesale. And let me tell you why. When you go to a business that's struggling and you ask them why they're struggling, they will give you an answer. And it's always wrong because it's always a symptom. It's never the core problem. They react to symptoms, and I call it symptoms masquerading as problems. So, is the customer king? In my world, the customer is always wrong. And when you have a customer or a prospect that comes to you as a business, you have to learn how to explain to them not only that they're wrong, but why they're wrong in a way that helps them understand that it's nothing personal. It's because they're not looking at the problem. If what they were looking at was the problem, they'd be right. It's not that their answer is wrong, it's that they're solving the wrong problem, which is why when these problems arise, it's like playing, whack-a-mole. Have you ever heard of the game called whack-a-mole? This little arcade game where a little mole pops up and you try and hit it, and another one pops up, and you try and hit it, and another one pops up. They're not solving the problem. They're they're solving symptoms, but the problem never goes away. So it just creates more symptoms. So the customer's never keying in what's the problem for wholesale, but they're always keying in terms of, I'm trying to help you survive. So I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. And I'm going to help you understand what the real problem is. And I could tell you many stories about this, where this happens, because it's an art. I mean, this is part of what I do.
Absolutely. You have explained it well, and I'm sure many answers can be found in your book. So let's come to your book. Tell us a bit about your book. What is this book about? I could not see the name properly, the audience, not the audience. So tell us about the name, what this book is all about, who is this book for, and when did you think of writing? Why did you write this book?
Great questions. So again, I will give you the link. The book is called Businesses Don't Fail, They Commit Suicide. And the subtitle is How to Survive Success and Thrive in Good Times and Bad. What that means is when you're successful, things change. And when change happens, it impacts your ability to maintain that success. So what do you have to do to maintain that success as the world changes around you? Like when a pandemic hits, okay? So this is all independent of God, acts of God. This has nothing to do with acts of God, okay? So the book is, so there are, understanding youth, adolescence, and adulthood begs the question, how do you know where you are as an organization? I want an objective measure. So I have a tool, an online tool. It's a very simple 8-question survey that measures the components that identify clarity of purpose, consistency of performance, and engagement of people. There's 8 of them. 3 of them are for purpose, 3 of them are for performance, and 2 of them are for people, engagement of people. You take the survey, it ranks them in order of strongest to weakest. So you attack one of the 3 weakest. Sometimes there's reason where cash flow is critical and you can't attack the weakest. You have to attack the one that's going to impact cash flow, but it's always one of the 3 weakest. Fix that, then go to the next one. Don't do 5 things at once. So that's what's in the book. And each of those 8 chapters has a section on the benefits of the indicator, a story about the indicator, an anecdote which is factual, but it's fictionalized. So I've changed all the names. It's got a section on how to create the indicator, how to implement the indicator, and how to maintain the indicator. So it's a how-to book. The first 3 chapters are where the research came from, how the research was conducted, how the book is laid out, and what each of the things means. And the last chapter is how you put it all together. My only desire is that people recognize that there's information. This is not Larry's concept. This is fact, that there's information out there about why businesses fail. If you care, great. If you don't, that's okay. And I will tell you that if you go online to Amazon, you can read the preface, the introduction, and I believe the first 2 chapters. So you can get a pretty good sense of what's going on. And if you think it's worth looking at, look at it. If you don't, I'm okay with that. I just want you to be aware that there's an answer. Now, the one thing I haven't spoken to yet is who's the audience. As I said before, has nothing to do with legal structure, corporate, nonprofit, government, education, works in all of those. Has nothing to do with revenue. Has nothing to do with the number of employees. Has nothing to do with industry. The criteria, there's 4 criteria. A desire for sustainability. So if you have a family-owned business and you don't want to sell it and your son doesn't want it and you say, I don't care, I'm just going to close it down. Well, I'm not for you. You don't care, right? You have to want your organization to survive past your leadership. That's number 1. Number 2, there has to be more than one layer of management. It can't be an organization. This is just my research, mind you. I'm just telling you who the book's for. If everybody in the company reports to one person, you're not my market. Those are the first 2 I didn't tell you about before. The second is no primary sources of revenue from retail and autonomous. You have to be able to make decisions independently of any outside investors or influence that are in the best interest of the organization and its customers. So that's the framework, and the specific people it's targeted for, the top 3 layers of management, and anyone who cares about learning how to run or manage a business. So I've had a lot of employees, frontline employees, tell me this helped them understand their boss. It helped them learn how to manage up, right? It's not just for leaders, but that's who the target is.
Absolutely. There is much to learn from you, Larry. There is for everyone, even for businesses.
Thank you.
Even for everyone, and take your help. So there's much for people to learn, especially small businesses, about you, from you, through your book. So for those people who would want to know about you, want to engage you professionally, what is the best way for them to do so?
Sign up for my newsletter, and you will be able to email me or communicate with me, and you will get an update on all of the things that I talk about and any training I'm doing, any webinars I'm doing. That's the key, is go sign up for the newsletter. It's once a month. It's a 3 to 4 minute read. It's very simple. It's my last name. It's on the screen there, Mandelberg. It's mandelberg.biz. Bravo, Idaho, Zebra, like biz for business, short for business. Of course, you can buy the book. Contact information is there. I'm on LinkedIn. My email is larry@mandelberg.biz. I'm very easy to find. If you Google me, you'll be able to find me. And I do want to say this. I think this is important. I'm at a point in my career where I'm not looking for more clients. I'm always looking for better clients. So just because, and I don't do any marketing. I do absolutely no marketing. All of my business is referral, and I don't take all the clients that come to me. So don't be upset if you want me to work with you and I tell you that I can't, because I'm very selfish. I'm very protective of my private time and my clients. I dedicate myself very, very deeply to my clients. So it's not easy to engage me. I don't mean that to sound snotty or anything, but it's, as we get older and we're successful, we want to work with people that we know we can give the most help to. right? I had somebody once who said to me, "How much do you charge?" And I told him, and he said, "My lawyer doesn't even charge that much." And I said, "You need to find a new lawyer," and hung up the phone.
Absolutely, absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.